It sure does come as a surprise, especially during such tumultuous times, that Alibaba decided to reshuffle their governance and their executive team to shake up a company that is currently on such rocky grounds. On top of that, in a recent note to the employees from Daniel, who is the chief executive of Alibaba, for those of you who do not know, this new restructuring is a broader effort by the company to empower organizations to become more agile. So we will discuss this in more details in the later part of this video. You know what else is empowering? You smashing the like button, of course. It will definitely empower my ego. Also, Momo is running a Christmas activity until the 31st of December 2021. So where you get a free Apple share and $40 of cash coupon when you make your first deposit amounting to around 2,700 Sing dollars or equivalent. So you can also stand a chance to win an iPhone 13, an AirPods 3 and many more during the limited time rewards promotion. So you can use my referral link down below in the description, and you will also get 180 days of unlimited commission-free trades and real-time market data. So for my non-Singapore-based viewers, you can use the other link to get free shares as well. Anyway, as seasoned professionals, whenever we observe organizations or institutions having major shakeups in their governance, usually mean one of two things. First, it's usually a change in administration, or essentially a change in power. You usually see this happening in politics, especially during the cabinet reshuffling and changing people in important positions like the finance minister or even the defense minister, etc. So in other words, you can look at it from the lens that it's essentially a flex of power. I wouldn't be surprised in the 2022 elections in China, where Xi will remain as chairman of the CCP again. He might reshuffle his cabinet to just prove this point and maybe stroke his ego a little at the sidelines. Now, the second possible reason is to address an internal or external problem. In any case, it would be the answer to a problem with exogenous factors that would clearly not be in the control of the company or the organization specifically. So to dive right in, Alibaba will be replacing their CFO Maggie with Toby Xu, who is currently the Deputy Chief Financial Officer, while Maggie will continue as a partner and executive director on the board. So this news actually came a week after Daniel's statement about empowering business units to become more agile as challenges for Alibaba increases both inside and outside of China. So many are actually speculating that Maggie lost her job mainly because of the latest earning reports. That was definitely less than spectacular, to say the least. She was also the head of strategic investments since 2019, and we know how those strategic investments are still in the germination stage and arguably the main culprits for the ugly financial statements. So the announcement from the company though said that this CFO transition is the culmination of extensive preparation over many years, and it's part of Alibaba's leadership succession planning. So let's not forget that Alibaba's goal of spanning over 3 centuries, and we are just at the start of this century. We can't expect Jack Ma and his team to continue monopolizing the executive positions, and Jack himself have already stepped down some time back. So the argument on whether it is voluntary is up for debate for another day, but we should not look back, but instead look forward to what the new leaders promise to deliver. So it definitely seems like an amicable transition where Maggie stated that we are in a relay race and we must have new generations of talents to take the company forward. So she also claimed that she trusts Toby even more than she trusted herself when she first took up the CFO position years ago. So at least Maggie is still staying on the board, which represents that there was probably no bad blood, hopefully. So the timing of this announcement though, when Alibaba stock is trading at an all-time low, when the latest financial results were less than spectacular, and the company essentially being embroiled in a list of dirty laundry, really makes people wonder and makes investors wonder whether this transition was hastened due to circumstantial developments, or was it really all pre-planned and all part of the leadership transition. So Toby was previously a partner at PwC, which is one of the big 4 accounting firms, and 3 years ago, he was appointed as the group deputy CFO in July 2019. So this succession was definitely widely expected, as he was announced as the deputy not too long after joining, and he helped facilitate the Q&A session during the last Investor Day in 2020. So other than this key management transition, Daniel actually discussed about this new structure being focused on 3 strategic pillars. So namely, the domestic consumption, globalization, and cloud computing. So if you were to really look at this three strategic pillar, he also said that this diversified business governance is part of Alibaba's new organizational strategy, which is an effort to increase innovation and to increase agility as an organization. So under the previous structure, domestic and internal e-commerce portfolios were kind of spread amongst many decision makers' purview. So with this new alignment in place, it finally seems like Alibaba as an executive team is treating their international arm much more seriously, and they might have matured to a stage where they feel comfortable with the potential ROI and expansion on the international front. So the best side of this argument is that they are very desperate to cling on to another opportunity arising in their businesses because they are slowly losing out to their competition in China. Whatever the case is, I remain fairly confident that Alibaba will still be able to have a tight grip on their existing user base in China while they look towards expanding and milking revenue from other places. So with this new structure in mind, it also seems like they have carved out a much more focused strategy to adapt to both the regulations and the changing world. So of course, all these are just my implicit inference. I don't have a seat at the Alibaba board. Essentially, this new pivot in strategy means that Daniel is delegating more responsibilities to the presidents at each business line, from location-based services all the way to cloud computing. So they are now essentially functioning like mini CEOs. So the strategy is intended to speed up decision making so each division can better fend off competition, revitalize flagging sales, and reshape its image in light of the regulatory crackdown on all the different tech companies in China. So interestingly enough, this management shift actually reverses a centralization drive which began almost 3 years ago. So that drive was actually brought up by Jack Ma, where he brought about the company's subsidiary and affiliates into close alignment, which they also coined the term called Alibaba economy or the Alibaba ecosystem, as some of you might put it. So Alibaba ecosystem or not, for those of you who have been following me for quite some time now, know that I did allude to the fact that the usage of a few specific terms, especially trendy ones, are just a way for companies to convince you that hey, they're essentially on the right track with the different trends. So I believe for many investors, especially in the last 2 years, are hypersensitive to a few zinger terms. Terms like decentralization, ecosystem, blockchain, metaverse, electrification, to just name a few. So we can also observe that after some companies announced their involvement in some of these said industries or some of these said terms previously, the market reacted and awarded a premium to all the different stocks and the different companies. Regardless, if you're to see the different developments of Alibaba in totality, it seems like prior to the crackdown, they were trying to consolidate the key parts of their business verticals to create what they deem as their own in-house ecosystem. Now, we are at the post-crackdown era. Whether it's fully done or not, only time will tell. But this new development can also be seen as a response to the Chinese government's relentless attempt to encourage competition and to break up monopolistic practices. So there is definitely a very fine and thin line between a durable moat and just a flat-out exploitation of their monopoly position. So it's quite obvious that as much as I like to blow Alibaba to the moon, the investigations that transpired from all the different regulators and the reports released by the government did show a significant level of anti-competition practices that Alibaba was initially engaged in when in their own normal business practices. And if we were to take a moment to think about the global companies who are currently running a monopoly, excluding those electric or water companies which are usually operating in the natural monopoly industry, the first few companies that will come to mind would probably be your big tech firms in the United States. So companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, etc. For many of you who have been following the global regulators and their stances against these companies, you should probably know in the ballpark that many of these regulators are already making the moves, but it might not be as effective when compared to the Chinese government. Anyway, this move to decouple can also be seen as the management's attempt to empower their business units with more autonomy to address the rise in competition and also the implicit understanding that they are not trying to congregate and monopolize any single industry, even though it's quite clear that they are currently the leader in both the e-commerce industry and the cloud industry in China. So it's definitely the impression that counts anyway, and it's exactly because Alibaba is the face of China in the US equities market they are also paying the price for that today. So with that in mind, do feel free to leave in the comment section down below what do you think of this new development. And I'll see you in the next video, but more importantly, I'll see you on the moon. Goodbye!